only brand that anybody has talked about for the last 3 months is Christopher Ward.
And Christopher Ward.
The newest release from Christopher Ward.
Christopher Ward. What?
There was just so much hype about this watch that I had to get hands-on with it and see it for myself. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And I got in contact with Christopher Ward pretty quickly after this hype kind of train began about them. And actually, they're a fantastic marketing team, which I think is partially why they have so much hype about them, sent this out to us almost straight away. It is the 12, and it has a pretty brilliant glacier dial. The first thing that struck me about this packaging, and I'll show you it now, is how high quality it looks and feels. For the money of this watch, that's pretty unbelievable. The packaging on this watch is just, it's pretty substantial. There's so many layers to it, and I think that when you think about the price of this watch, coming in at £1,050, the packaging is so much more substantial than a lot of other brands within that price region and also above. Now, one thing that I did learn about this brand off the bat is the logo of the brand actually means Swiss and British, because it is a British brand with Swiss quality. And I like that. I like how simplistic that is. And then we unveil the 12, which looks absolutely stunning. This watch genuinely is as good looking, if not better, than an AP Royal Oak, a Tissot PRX, a Vacheron Constantin overseas. If you don't have the budget, and most of us don't, to stretch to a VC overseas or to an AP Royal Oak or a Patek Philippe Nautilus, this is the watch for you. And there's been a lot of similarities drawn between the PRX and the Christopher Ward, but we're going to save that for another video, so if you want to see that, hit that subscribe button. Let's dive straight into the specs of this model. So obviously it is Genta inspired, and one thing that I do love about Christopher Ward is instead of faking stuff, instead of making marketing fluff, they're very honest and open about what they do. And it kind of comes down to the movement in particular. There's a lot of Swiss watch brands that try and camouflage their brand, their movement, and say that it's in-house, or there's parts of it that are in-house, so it's a caliber, blah, 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 and put the brand name in front of it. Even though it's not their movement. It's a mass-produced Sellita, or it's an ETA. Now, one thing that Christopher Ward does really nicely is they say it's a Sellita movement. We're not faking the movement. It's made in Switzerland. Sellita movements are mass-produced movements. Doesn't mean they're bad, but at least they tell you that it is a Sellita movement, instead of inventing marketing fluff to pretend that it's something different. But I'm getting totally off topic. Let's begin with the specs of this watch. So it comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, which is pretty perfect to any watch enthusiast. It's a pretty damn good measurement. I would actually say it wears slightly smaller than the Tissot PRX because of the lug-to-lug, and we'll get onto that in a second. But it does wear that little bit smaller than the PRX, in my opinion. The height, or the thickness of this watch, according to our digital calipers, comes in at roughly 9.95 to 10 millimeters, which is brilliantly slim. It's as slim as a dress watch, but gives the vibes of a 70s inspired sports watch. It is a brilliant combination of the two, and I think that's why it can be used in either place, in either situation. It can be a sports watch. It's very sporty looking, but it also can be a dress watch. The lug-to-lug of this model comes in at roughly, according to our digital calipers here, 44.5 millimeter, probably just below. I think their website says 44.5. I'm getting 44.3, 44.4, but it's not that big a difference. I would genuinely say, and I don't say this lightly, this watch has very little in the way of proportions that I would change. I would really struggle to figure out a better way of proportioning this watch. I don't think I could do it. I think this is damn near yeah, there is negatives, but the proportions are damn near perfect. Before we get onto that integrated bracelet, the butterfly clasp, the case, the face, and all that kind of stuff, I need to talk about the proportions. I think the reason why Christopher Ward have really nailed these proportions is because they aren't riding off of an old model from their past. If you look at Tissot, if you look at Patek, if you look at Vacheron, if you look at any brand normally out there, they're always picking a model from their past and redesigning it to be within the current watch climate. They're redesigning it and relaunching it. But they need to keep certain aspects from their past. And the truth of the matter is that times change. You know, social media 20 years ago wasn't really a thing. Now it dominates the world. So times change. The case and the bracelet both come in stainless steel, and both of them have a combination of polished and brushed steel to accentuate those lines, especially on the crown guards, which I'm obsessed with, and the crown here. Now, it does have an integrated bracelet with a butterfly clasp at the bottom just here, which is pretty damn awesome. Now, one thing that I do love about Christopher Ward's marketing is they have said quite openly that they've been inspired by Genta's designs. And they've said quite openly that they've made changes. Now, so many companies, I don't want to say copy, they pull inspiration from Gerald Genta, but aren't open about it, don't celebrate that incredible man who was Gerald Genta. But what they have done have openly said that they've been inspired by him, and they're celebrating him. They're carrying on his legacy. So the watch community don't feel like they're maybe being misled. The bezel on this model, or the limited bezel, is actually really, really angular and highly, highly polished. Now, when you shine this in the light and reflect it in the light, it gives an amazing contrast between that bezel and the brushed stainless steel of the bracelet or some aspects of the case. Now, the crown guards are highly elongated, and it gives it this kind of like futuristic Elon Musk spaceship design. It is very different to what you see in the industry at the moment, and I quite like that design. The crown is pretty perfectly proportioned, and it has the Christopher Ward logo stamped on the inside just here. But one thing I would say about the crown, and Drew and I literally just figured this out, it traps quite a lot of dirt within this crown because it's slightly lowered. So that's maybe something they'll have to look at. Diving into the dial of this watch, it's very, well, no, let's not dive into the dial just yet, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the dial. Let's talk about the hands and the indices. The hands and the indices are highly, highly reflective. They almost look like a Grand Seiko level of polishing within those hands and indices. It's not that good, but it's not that expensive. It's bloody good for the money. They're highly reflective. But one thing that you could say, especially on this Glacier dial, which is the kind of ice blue, is that it could be quite hard to read in certain lights. The dial on this model has kind of a three-dimensional pyramid pattern, so to speak. And depending on how you reflect it in the light, it looks stunning. You really can't see the beauty of this watch properly until you get it on the wrist. It's brilliant. It truly is. I mean, one thing I would say though, and I feel like this was very prevalent in the Zenith Defy Skyline, they basically have put their own logo in the dial, and the depth in the dial is their logo, if that makes sense. The Zenith Defy Skyline did the same. I'm not sure if I like the fact that they've put their logo within the dial to make the depth. And I wasn't sure about the Zenith Defy Skyline either. I quite like the reference of the Omega Seamaster, where they just have waves, or the Tissot PRX, where it's depth, but it's not like they've printed the Tissot logo hundreds of times. I know what watch I'm buying. I like this dial, but it's just that little thing. The dials on these watches are really fantastically colored. I mean, they have this ice blue, or glacier, you could say. They have a dark blue. They also have a silver, which is Drew's personal favorite, and they also have a blooming purple, like a genuinely bright purple. They've gone full Mace Windu on the thing.
The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost.
No. And it looks great. It truly does. I mean, I'm not sure a lot of people would buy the purple. It's a pretty bold color to have, but it draws a lot of eyes. Getting further into the detail on the dial, it has a brilliantly positioned 6 o'clock date window, which just makes this dial so symmetrical, and I do love a 6 o'clock date window. They're definitely my preference over the 3 o'clock, but if I could, I would just get rid of it. I mean, on this dial, I think it would look brilliant without. It would look that little bit cleaner, but that's just my personal preference. It does have an applied logo at the 12 o'clock mark, and just so you know it's automatic, it has the word automatic in black just above the date window. If you were wanting to start your luxury watch journey, make sure you head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. We're unfortunately not stockists of Christopher Ward yet, but we are stockists of a ton of other watches. If you want to get your hands on anything in particular, head to chisholmhunter.co.uk and use the discount code CHSUB at the checkout. That is CHSUB for 10% off your first watch. That's on selected lines. When we flip this watch over to reveal the case back, it actually has an open case back showcasing that Sellita movement. Now, another little special detail that you might not have noticed is that Christopher Ward actually allow engraving on their watches. So to the right of the model number, just on the case back here, you will be able to engrave your watch for £30. And that's a service that not many watches offer the service of. Not many watch companies do. And I really like that. And actually, for an engraving, I can tell you from experience, that's cheap. The movement in this watch is the Sellita SW200-1. And this, of course, is fully automatic, and it's Swiss made. It has 26 joules, beats at a frequency of 4 Hz, and it has roughly 38 hours of power. It also has a built-in anti-shock system to maintain accuracy when faced with any sudden jolts. Now, I like the way that Christopher Ward are carrying themselves in the industry. They're not trying to mislead anyone about the movements. They're not saying it's their own movement. They're saying at the very top of their page, this is a Sellita movement, and this is why the watch is priced the way it is. And I like that. And there's nothing wrong with a mass-produced movement. I have a Tissot with an ETA movement in it. It doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's mass-produced. I mean, many mass-produced cars. It doesn't mean the cars are bad. It just means that they're mass-produced. Now, this watch is pretty much double the price of a Tissot PRX. It comes in at £1,050 for the bracelet version. Now, the titanium version, if you want that, comes in at about £2,000, and the rubber strap, or whatever strap you want on this watch, would come in at about £850, more or less. So it is pretty much double a PRX, and you can definitely see that in the quality of the bracelet, in the quality of the case, in the quality in general of this watch. I'm not slamming the Tissot PRX in any way. I own a Tissot PRX, so I wouldn't ever slam a Tissot PRX. But you get what you pay for, and this is a brilliant watch for the money. Now, what I really wanted to say in this review, and what I really was gravitating towards, what pulled me in, was the fact that this is a British brand and they're fully transparent. They're not trying to mislead anyone. And in the industry, especially in luxury watches or luxury cars or luxury whiskey or whatever it is, it's kind of shades of grey. Now, when you look at Lamborghini and you look at the new Urus, a lot of that car is actually made by Audi. And what Lamborghini have done is pretty much wrapped it in Lamborghini, quadrupled the price and said it's a Lamborghini. And they're not wrong. It is. But they're kind of misleading people a little bit. What I like about this British brand is that they're very, very honest. They say very transparently that it's a Sellita movement. They say very transparently where everything's from. They say very transparently that they were established in 2004. They don't say, oh, we pulled a watch out the archives from 1992 and make it up. They're saying they were founded recently. This watch is such an Instagrammable watch. That's what I would say. And that's how I found out about these guys in the first place. And that's not a bad thing. They're moving with the times. They're capitalizing on the market. People use social media now. A lot of people will see this watch on social media and therefore they'll buy it. I think that watches and luxury in general, especially within watches, move quite slowly Fast fashion is every 6 months, every 3 months, every month. You've got changes, you've got new outfits, you've got new seasons, you've got new collections. Whereas watches are a little bit slower. They maybe have 3 or 2 key launches a year, and that's pretty much it. What these guys are doing is shaking up the market. They're disrupting the market with something new, something fresh that's changing with the times. Now, yes, there's some stuff on this watch that I don't really like, but I like what these guys are doing. Let me leave you with this. When a brand is starting out, there's 4 main areas that they need to hit in order to grow, in order to thrive. You have cost. They need to be quality for the money you're paying. If you're charging 20 grand, you better have a reason to be charging 20 grand. Then you need to have a brilliant modern or classic design. You need to have a design that draws the eye and people want to wear. You then need to have a quality product, which is what this watch is. Finally though, and this is what a lot of watch brands miss, is marketing. Christopher Ward's marketing is brilliant. They're so transparent. I messaged these guys last week and they got back to me, and within 2 emails, I had this watch. I don't own this watch. It's just a sample piece, but I had this watch. That is, when it comes to other watch brands, that's impossible to do. These guys' marketing is just incredible. I have gone off in a total tangent. I really have. I just thought we'd start off talking about Christopher Ward in a simple review format. A little bit of a discussion. We've not dive too much into the detail, but there is a Tissot PRX versus Christopher Ward 12 coming soon, and also a couple of other videos regarding Christopher Ward coming soon. So if you want to see them, hit that subscribe button. I really hope you enjoyed. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. What are your thoughts on Christopher Ward the 12, or actually just Christopher Ward in general? Let me know in the comments. Remember that we do have a new after hours VIP section, so if you go to the homepage of the YouTube, you can join that and you see exclusive content from us, which is pretty cool. It's normally just honest watch conversations. We also have our own Instagram, Chisholm Hunter Watches, so drop us a follow on there if you want to see more watches. My name is Harrison, this is the Chisholm Hunter channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could hit that subscribe button, it would be appreciated, and I'll see you soon.